Picture this. It's 480 BC. The mighty Persian Empire, the superpower of its day, has set its sights on conquering Greece. King Xerxes, with an army so vast it was said to drink rivers dry, has already burned Athens to the ground. The Greek city-states are in disarray, their forces scattered, their morale shattered. It looks like the end of the line for Greek independence and the dawn of a new Persian province. But one man, a brilliant Athenian politician and general named Themistocles, has a plan, a risky, audacious, all-or-nothing gamble that will change the course of history. This is the story of the Battle of Salamis, one of the most decisive naval battles ever fought. It's a tale of strategy against brute force, of courage against overwhelming odds, and of how a small, determined fleet saved a civilization. So, how did we get here? 10 years earlier, in 490 BC, the Persians under King Darius tried to invade Greece, but were famously defeated by the Athenians at the Battle of Marathon. Darius's son, Xerxes, inherited his father's ambition and his desire for revenge. He spent years amassing a colossal invasion, forced hundreds of thousands of soldiers and over 1,000 warships. In the spring of 480 BC, this immense force crossed the Hellespont into Europe. The Greeks knew they were coming. A coalition of city-states, led by Sparta and Athens, prepared to defend their homeland. Their initial strategy was to hold the Persians at the narrow pass of Thermopylae on land and the nearby Strait of Artemisium at sea. We all know the heroic story of King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans at Thermopylae. They held off the Persian army for 3 days, buying precious time for the rest of Greece. At the same time, the Greek fleet, commanded by the Spartan Eurybiades, but masterminded by Themistocles, fought the Persian navy to a standstill at Artemisium. But when Thermopylae fell, the Greek position became untenable. The fleet had to retreat south. The path to Athens was now wide open. The Athenians evacuated their city, moving their women, children, and elderly to the nearby island of Salamis. They watched in horror from across the water as Xerxes' army marched into their beloved city and set it ablaze. This was the lowest point for the Greeks. Their most prominent city was a smoking ruin. The Persian army was camped on the shores of Attica, and their massive fleet was anchored just outside the Strait of Salamis, bottling up the smaller Greek navy. The Peloponnesian allies, like the Spartans and Corinthians, were panicking. They wanted to abandon the fight, pull the fleet back to the Isthmus of Corinth, and make a last stand there to defend their own homes. This is where Themistocles steps onto the center stage of history. He knew that retreating was a death sentence. The Greek fleet was made up of ships from different city-states, each with its own loyalties. If they tried to sail to Corinth, the fleet would likely disintegrate as each contingent rushed to defend its own city. The Persians would then pick them off, one by one. Furthermore, Themistocles understood naval warfare better than anyone. He knew the Greek ships, the Triremes, were heavier and less maneuverable than the faster Persian vessels. In the open sea, the Greeks would be surrounded and destroyed. Their only hope was to fight in a confined space where the Persian numbers would count for nothing. The narrow Strait of Salamis was the perfect location. But how could he convince the other terrified Greek commanders to stay and fight? The council of war was a scene of bitter arguments. The Spartan commander Eurybiades was swayed by the Peloponnesians and was ready to order a retreat. Themistocles pleaded, argued, and reasoned, but they wouldn't listen. In a famous exchange, the Corinthian commander Admetus insulted Themistocles, saying that a man without a city since Athens was destroyed had no right to speak. Themistocles retorted with a chilling threat. The Athenians had 200 ships, the largest contingent in the fleet. They were a city on the sea. If the allies abandoned them, the Athenians would simply pack up their families. Assailed Thermopylae and found a new Athens there, leaving the rest of Greece to fend for itself. This threat worked. Eurybiades reluctantly agreed to stay. For now, but Themistocles knew the alliance was fragile. He needed to force the battle, and he needed to do it now, on his terms. So, he hatched one of the most brilliant and risky deceptions in military history. He secretly sent his most trusted servant, a man named Sisinus, to the Persian king Xerxes. Pretending to be a secret sympathizer, Sisinus delivered a message. He told Xerxes that the Greek commanders were in a panic and planned to flee under the cover of darkness. He advised Xerxes that if he wanted to crush the Greeks once and for all, he should block the exits of the strait immediately. This was the golden opportunity to trap and annihilate the entire Greek navy. Xerxes, arrogant and overconfident after his recent victories, fell for it hook, line, and sinker. The message confirmed everything he believed about the weak and divided Greeks. He ordered his fleet to move. During the night, a powerful squadron of Egyptian ships in the Persian navy sailed to block the western exit of the strait. The rest of his massive fleet moved into position at the eastern entrance, forming a tight blockade. Xerxes even had a throne set up on the slopes of Mount Agaleo, overlooking the strait, so he could personally watch his glorious victory unfold. He had no idea he was walking right into Themistocles' trap. As dawn broke on that fateful day in late September 480 BC, the Greek commanders were still arguing. But then, a ship arrived with shocking news. They were completely surrounded. The time for debate was over. The time for retreat was gone. Now, they had no choice but to fight. Themistocles' gamble had paid off. He had cornered his own allies into fighting the battle he knew they could win. The Greek fleet consisted of about 370 The Persian fleet, even after some losses in storms and at Artemisium, still numbered over 800 ships. The odds were more than 2 to 1 against the Greeks. As the sun rose, the Greek crews ate a hurried breakfast, poured libations to the gods, and listened to speeches from their commanders. The battle cry rang out as the oarsmen took their places. Themistocles' plan was simple yet brilliant. He had the main body of his fleet pull back, feigning a retreat deeper into the narrows. This lured the lead Persian squadrons, eager for the kill, to charge forward into the strait. They pushed ahead, ship after ship pouring into the confined waters, their lines becoming disorganized in the rush. Then the trap was sprung. On the Greek left flank, the Athenian ships, which had been hiding behind a headland, suddenly surged forward and rammed into the flank of the lead Phoenician squadron. At the same time, the main Greek line stopped its feigned retreat and charged forward. The battle cry of the Greeks, the paean, echoed across the water, a terrifying sound to the Persians who suddenly realized they were not chasing a fleeing enemy, but attacking a prepared and determined foe. What followed was not a battle, but a brutal, chaotic melee. The narrowness of the strait was the Greeks' greatest weapon. The huge Persian fleet couldn't bring its numbers to bear. They were packed in so tightly that they couldn't maneuver, turn, or even use their oars properly. They became a tangled mass of helpless targets. The heavier Greek Triremes, with their bronze-plated rams, systematically smashed into the sides of the lighter Persian ships, splintering their hulls and sending them to the bottom. The Persian ships at the front, trying to retreat from the carnage, collided with the ships behind them that were still pressing forward, eager to get into the fight. The confusion was total. Captains couldn't hear orders over the din of splintering wood, shouting men, and the clash of arms. Greek marines, heavily armed hoplites, leaped onto the decks of crippled Persian ships, turning the naval battle into a series of vicious land battles on floating platforms. Xerxes watched in disbelief from his throne as his magnificent navy was systematically destroyed. He saw his finest squadrons shattered. He saw one of his own brothers, the Admiral Ariabenes, killed early in the fighting. The sea became a horrific scene, filled with wreckage, drowning men, and the floating bodies of the dead. The Ionian Greeks, who had been forced to fight for the Persians, were said to have fought half-heartedly, and some may have even switched sides during the battle. One famous story from the battle involves Artemisia, the queen of Halicarnassus, a Greek city allied with Persia. Pursued by an Athenian ship, she coolly rammed and sank another friendly Persian ship to create a path of escape. The Athenian captain, thinking she was a friendly Greek ship, broke off his pursuit. Xerxes, watching from afar and not realizing she had sunk one of his own ships, was impressed by her courage and famously remarked, "My men have become women, and my women men." By the end of the day, it was all over. The Persian fleet was annihilated. They lost over 200 ships, with many more captured. The Greeks lost only about 40. The remnants of the Persian navy, shattered and demoralized, fled back to Asia. The victory at Salamis was a stunning turning point. Xerxes, fearing the Greeks would now sail to the Hellespont and destroy his bridge of boats, cutting off his escape route, panicked. He left his general Mardonius with a large portion of the army in Greece to try and finish the conquest the following year, but he himself took the rest of the army and retreated back to Persia. His invasion had lost its momentum. The following year, the united Greek army, led by the Spartans, would go on to decisively defeat Mardonius at the Battle of Plataea, ending the Persian threat to Greece for good. The Battle of Salamis is more than just a military victory. It's considered by many historians to be one of the most significant battles in human history. Had the Greeks lost, their burgeoning culture might have been extinguished. The ideas that would form the bedrock of Western civilization, democracy, philosophy, science, drama, and art had been snuffed out before they could fully flourish. The victory ensured the survival of Greek independence and allowed its unique culture to develop and eventually spread throughout the world. It all came down to one crucial day in a narrow strait of water, and the vision of one man, Themistocles, who dared to risk everything on a single, brilliant, and deceptive plan. His genius turned overwhelming odds into a decisive victory and saved a civilization. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the course of history is changed, not by the largest army, but by the sharpest mind. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's greatest battles, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story. See you next time.